welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're tackling something really quite counterintuitive. You know that feeling fear, uncertainty, and doubt? FUD.
Right. Usually bad news for markets.
Exactly. It's seen as negative, something that, tanks prices, causes panic. But what if? What if for Bitcoin, FUD is actually like a secret weapon, a catalyst for strength, maybe, not weakness? That's what we're going to explore.
And it's timely because Bitcoin's price has certainly faced, well, a lot of pressure recently.
Yeah, like what specifically?
Well, you've got a wave of regulatory crackdowns, or at least talk of them, persistent rumors, government bans maybe. Then there are the negative headlines, about energy use. They seem to be everywhere. And even big players, whales they call them, selling off pretty large holdings. It's been intense.
Okay, so our mission then for this deep dive is to unpack why. Why, despite all that pressure, Bitcoin just keeps holding strong, and why many experts think it's actually setting up for its next big move up. We're going to explore how Bitcoin has this really long, kind of fascinating history of thriving in chaos, as some sources put it. So let's start there. This idea that FUD isn't just a hurdle, it's like a catalyst. We keep seeing this pattern, don't we? Every single time Bitcoin is declared dead or facing some huge crisis.
It bounces back, often stronger.
Right. What is that? What lets it defy gravity like this?
It is pretty remarkable. And what the data suggests is it's the role of the long-term holders.
Diamond hands.
Exactly, the diamond hands. So when the media paints this gloomy picture and, shorter-term traders panic, these long-term folks, they just quietly step in. They accumulate more. So FUD becomes, well, it's more than a stress test. It's almost like a recalibration mechanism. Ownership literally transfers from, let's say, nervous speculators to people with a really long-term conviction. And that actually strengthens the base over time.
I can see that, the sort of psychological transfer. But I think, how does that feeling, that conviction, translate into hard market mechanics, like supply and demand?
Right.
We know Bitcoin's got that fixed supply. So how does FUD actually play into that?
Well, it's classic supply demand, but with Bitcoin's unique twist. So fear hits. Weak hands, as they're called, they sell off. That naturally pushes short-term prices down, right?
Sure.
But here's the key. Because there are only ever going to be 21 million coins, those sellers aren't just crashing the price into oblivion. They're transferring a scarce asset. And this creates, really, an opportunity, a discount for, say, institutional players or more experienced investors who've seen this movie before. They step in and buy cheap. So this constant rebalancing, panic sellers versus confident long-term buyers, that's what helps drive the price up over the long run, even with all the volatility.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like a filtering mechanism built into the scarcity.
Precisely.
And it's not just investors reacting to FUD, is it?
Yeah.
I read that even the miners, the people securing the network, they have a surprising role here too.
They do.
You'd think a price dip would just devastate mining operations.
You would think so. But this is where Bitcoin's design is, well, frankly, quite clever. It's almost anti-fragile. When fear spreads and the price dips significantly, some miners become unprofitable. Those with higher energy costs, older equipment.
Right, they can't afford to run.
Exactly. So they shut down their machines. But here's the magic. That automatically reduces the network's mining difficulty.
How does that work?
The protocol adjusts. Fewer miners means the cryptographic puzzles become easier to solve. So for the miners still operating, it suddenly becomes easier and potentially more profitable to mine Bitcoin.
I see.
This stabilizes the system. It actually encourages the remaining more efficient miners to maybe even invest more, strengthening the network security, not weakening it. The network adapts.
Wow. Okay. That's a fascinating kind of built-in recovery loop.
It really is.
Now, okay, beyond these immediate market reactions, the investor psychology, the minor adjustments, what about the stuff happening sort of quietly? The hidden forces, maybe. Because it feels like there's huge infrastructure being built almost regardless of these FUD cycles.
Oh, absolutely. That's a crucial piece of the puzzle, especially now. We're seeing immense infrastructure growth.
Like what, specifically?
Well, think about the big names. You've got BlackRock, you've got Fidelity, other, multi-billion-dollar traditional finance firms. They aren't just kicking in the tires. They're launching Bitcoin ETFs, custody services, integrating it into their platform.
Right, those ETF were a big deal.
Huge. And these aren't fly-by-night speculators. These are massive institutions building for the next decade or longer. That signals a really deep long-term commitment. It's not easily swayed by, a bad news week. It's structural.
Okay, that makes sense. Structural commitment. And if we zoom out even further, what about the big picture, the macroeconomic environment? Are there larger forces kind of pushing people towards something like Bitcoin, maybe out of necessity?
I think there certainly are. Look, governments around the world, they continue to print enormous amounts of money. Just a fact.
Yeah. Stimulus, quantitative easing.
Right. And with that comes growing concerns about inflation, currency devaluation. So naturally, more people start looking for assets that aren't controlled by any single government, assets that maybe can't be diluted or inflated away.
And Bitcoin fits that description.
It fits perfectly. It offers that decentralized alternative. And something else that often gets missed in the Western media narrative is Bitcoin's role, its growing role as a lifeline in developing countries.
Where currencies are maybe less stable.
Exactly. Places like Argentina, Venezuela, parts of Africa, where people face serious currency instability or capital controls. For them, Bitcoin isn't just speculation. It's potentially a way to preserve wealth, to transact across borders. Adoption is quietly but steadily rising in those regions, regardless of Wall Street's mood.
That adds another layer entirely, a sort of global fundamental demand driver. Okay, and looking ahead, there's one specific event that always seems to get the Bitcoin world buzzing, the halving.
Ah, yes, the halving.
What is that exactly, and why is it such a big deal historically? Why are people already talking about the next one?
So the halving is basically baked into Bitcoin's code. It's a fundamental scarcity mechanism. Roughly every 4 years, the reward that miners get for adding new blocks to the blockchain gets cut in half.
So fewer new Bitcoins are created over time.
Precisely. The rate of new supply entering the market slows down dramatically. And historically, every single time this has happened, it's triggered a pretty significant bull run in the months that follow.
Why? Just the supply shock.
It's a constrained supply hitting potentially steady or growing demand. It's a powerful economic force. And the next halving, well, it's expected in less than a year from now. So yeah, a lot of savvy investors, according to the sources, are already positioning themselves. They're anticipating that historical pattern might just repeat itself.
Right, getting in early before the supply gets tighter.
Potentially, yes.
Okay, so let's try and pull this all together then. Our deep dive today suggests that while, yes, the headlines often scream fear and uncertainty, the underlying fundamentals for Bitcoin seem to be, well, quietly getting stronger. Is that a fair summary?
I think it is. We've talked about how FUB, paradoxically, can actually strengthen the network. It forces out the less committed hands.
Creates buying opportunities.
Exactly. Creates those opportunities for more resilient, long-term focused investors. And in a way, it trains the whole ecosystem to think longer term, to weather the storms.
Yeah.
Now, of course, it's crucial to add a caveat. No one can say for sure what any market will do next. Prediction is a fool's game.
Always.
But if history serves as any kind of guide, this current climate of, fear and doubt, it could very well be the fuel, the very thing that powers Bitcoin's next major breakout.
It really encourages a different way of looking at things, doesn't it? To sort of differentiate between the short-term noise, the scary headlines, and the underlying strength or the structural shifts happening.
Absolutely. It applies beyond Bitcoin too, really, in any complex system.
Yeah. So for you listening, maybe the takeaway is to stay informed, yes, but also to try and look beyond those immediate headlines. Try and discern the deeper dynamics at play. Don't let the FUD shake you out, as they say.
Well said. Stay steady. Look at the fundamentals.
Thanks for that perspective. Really fascinating stuff.
My pleasure.